So I just figured I'd give you guys an update on a few projects that I'm working on before I get into the next one that I'm working on today. Remember the York's stereo clock radio that I replaced the display on a couple of years ago, maybe a year or so ago? This is what it looks like today. That project has been finished, of course. I never showed you guys what the final results look like, but there's the display I put in. I got a nice blue filter. It really looks fantastic. And of course, there's the dot matrix clock that I worked on there a few weeks back that I built. And oh, did I just notice that some more of the LEDs have burned out? I have a feeling, maybe not. It just didn't look right when it had the word Saturday on there. See if it scroll up there again. Today is a Saturday. Oh, yeah, look. There's some LEDs that have burned out on this thing. Here's another project I'm working on. You guys probably remember my VU meter clock that was in that nice wooden box that I've now reused for my Nixie tube clock. Well, this is the next project box. I'm going to put that display. I haven't mounted it yet. I have to get a piece of dark glass cut for this. I'm going to get a piece of dark glass cut to the size of the opening that I've cut out here. I'll get the glass fitted in it, and we're going to paint the box up, make it nice black, nice shiny or black, probably glossy black finish. Then I'm going to mount the meter and the clock module inside there and put the switches on the back. That's a work in progress. I don't know if I'll show you guys the work on that or not. It's probably kind of boring just making up a case. Anyway, today's video is a find that I found at the thrift shop. Let's take a look. Okay, this is a JVC Super VHS hi-fi machine. This is an HRS 3910U, and as you can see, I picked this up for 15 bucks. Of course, it doesn't work. I actually expected it would do anything other than power on. No, it's got no picture. So it might be simple. It might be a tough one. But let's take it apart and take a look inside this one and see how well this one's built. Now, the reason I picked this thing up, I normally wouldn't give a VHS machine a second thought at a secondhand store because they're a dime a dozen. And quite frankly, well, you can find them anywhere. I've got probably 10 working VHS machines at my disposal. But this one here being a Super VHS, and this is the Super VHS ET, which meant that it would record Super VHS signal onto a standard VHS tape without having to drill the hole into the bottom. But it does have the full Super VHS circuitry, so if you put a Super VHS tape in, it'll go at the full quality for Super VHS. This is a relatively modern in terms of the vintage of this. This one's relatively modern, so I figured for 15 bucks I can't go wrong. It's always nice to have an extra S-VHS deck around because that way I can use it for archiving both standard and S-VHS tapes. And of course the beauty of this is on the back it's got the S-video output. So for capturing video, this is going to deliver a better quality picture even off of standard VHS tapes, because the luma and chroma signals from the video and chroma circuitry in the VCR will be passed directly to the S-video output, which I can then send directly to the S-video input on my DVD recorder or to my capture card. Normally I'm going straight to DVD because the quality going to DVD is a little bit better than going to computer. Most of my clients still want a hard physical copy on a disc, as opposed to just having their family archives put onto a memory stick, which can get easily lost or get erased. So most of my clients still ask to have their archived footage put onto a disc. So this will be perfect for that, but we got to get it working first. So let's get the top off it. So one thing I will give this unit is it does have a metal chassis in it, and it really doesn't have a whole lot of plastic compared to what a lot of the later model VHS machines did. Unfortunately, it's one of the single board designs, but you know, it doesn't have any of those bloody surface mount electrolytics that cause so much trouble on it. It has none. They're all through-hole capacitors on here. Power supply is part of the main board. It does turn on, it just I don't have a picture. So I don't know at this point whether I've got just a clogged head or whether I've got another problem on here. So I'm going to check a few things out here, and we'll just see exactly what symptom I'm getting on this. So here's the symptom. Of course, when I load a tape, oops, what am I doing here? I don't want to do that. I don't want to record on this, that's for sure. pressed the wrong button now. Let's make sure I don't record on this tape. As you can see, it is threading correctly. If I put the tape in, that's all good. When I press play, tape really moves quick for a bit. Okay, now watch. I get a picture. It's gone to a blue screen. I got a picture back. I don't want to show this because I don't want to get copyright, right? But I'll just show a little bit of the screen. So there's our symptom. As you can see, I'm just gonna show a bit of the picture because I don't want to get a match, because I think HBO probably would. This is Band of Brothers that I've got playing on here, and this is a Super VHS tape. But as you can see, this is what's happening. Okay, it's slowly going in and out of lock. And that screams all over it, control track problem. If you don't have a control track, the machine, the servos can't lock up. So this is screaming, we have a control track problem on this machine. So I think we'll get the scope hooked up and look for the control track signal and see whether we've got one. If we look down the back here, here's where our scope is going to go. I got my big magnifiers on here. It's AFM playback, or yeah, audio playback FM, video playback FM, control pulse, and that's 111 DFF, whatever that one means. Let's check the control track pulse. So okay, I'm clipped onto the control track pulse now. And let's see whether I get a control track pulse on the scope. Well, I'm not seeing... Oh, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong... Might help if I'm on the right input. I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing noise. I'm going to put my finger down around where the amplifier is here. Just see whether I can pick up some noise here. So as you can see, there's no control track pulses here. I was just playing with my scope there, trying to get rid of some of the noise and improve the appearance of the picture there. This scope has got to go. I got to get a new scope. This thing's useless. I mean, it does the job, right? But I'm just gonna put my finger down here, see if I can. I'm going to touch around the head here to see whether I can get a signal. I'm just looking for something to stick down there and touch it with. See whether I can get a signal coming off of this thing. We'll just take a look at that scope. Okay, so now what I've done is I'm just touching the input connector. I've just got a resistor. I'm just hanging on to a resistor here. I'll show you what I'm doing. So I'm just touching this connector down here at the back with a resistor, and as you can see, when I touch it, I'm getting signal on the scope. So it's just picking up noise in the air. So what that's telling me is that we don't have a signal getting to the unit itself. But when I do the same thing, when I touch the head itself, I'm getting nothing. Right? When I touch this end of the ribbon cable here, I'm getting nothing on the scope. Now I've gone to a completely blue screen. It's not even jumping in and out anymore. But if I go down inside here and I touch, you see, that's the other end of that cable. So I'm thinking this ribbon cable here is either damaged or it's not making a good connection. So let's just take it out and clean it up. It might be that just the end of it is kind of oxidated. I think what I'll do is I'm just going to put a little bit of of deoxit on the end of that connector and put it back together. I'm going to use the stuff that comes with the little eyedropper because I don't need to really get a whole bunch of it in there. I'm just going to put a drop of this stuff onto the end of this connector, and I'll reseat it and see whether it makes any difference, because when I touch the end here where it goes into the machine, I got noise on the scope, but when I touched the other end of it I didn't. So it's either there goes the General Lee. The General Lee just drove by. The real General Lee. Actually, the guy that owns the car that was used in the Dukes of Hazzard is one of my neighbors, and he drives it around in the summertime, so I'm always seeing it go up and down the street. Maybe if I'm lucky and I'm rolling, I can point the camera out front the next time he goes by. We might see him go by again. Let's get some deoxit out. I'm just going to put a drop. I'm wearing these big magnifiers I just bought to try them out. So I'm just going to put a bit of this stuff on each end of the connector here, and we'll reseat it. And perhaps that's all it is that the connector itself has oxidized, and okay, let's try that, see whether it does anything. That'll be great if it does. $15 for a Super VHS machine. It'd be a great find if that's all that's wrong with this thing. Try and get a shot so you guys can see the screen and the scope, and see whether we get a control track pulse here, and see if we get a picture. Play. Okay, I see a control track pulse, and I see a picture. Wow. What a score. 15 bucks for a Super VHS machine. And one that records in Super VHS on a regular tape. That's got me pretty happy. See, here's the pulses. It's hard to see, I know, because it's so bright in here and this tube is white. Right, but there's the control track pulses that I was missing. So all I did was I just put a little bit of cleaner on the connector on each side here. Obviously this is okay. This ribbon, flat flexible cable. Either one of the pins in here had oxidated and it wasn't making a good connection. It was pushed all the way in because I had to give it a good pull to take the thing out. But it's either one of two. Either it wasn't, obviously it wasn't making a connection and we weren't getting a signal. But hey, it's working. Let's check this thing out for record. I'll just get something to record on here and we'll see how well this thing records. Before I do that, I'll just show you on the front of this one here, it's got a button that says S-VHS ET. When you put a non-Super VHS tape in, you can turn that on. And it'll light up on the screen here. It turns on a little green light, first of all, but it also lights up the little S-VHS icon. Now, if I put a real Super VHS tape in, what does it do? Let's see. So here I have a real Super VHS tape. So I'm not even going to check this thing for alignment. I think it's okay. Here's a real Super VHS tape. When I put that tape in, does it read the switch or do I still have to push a button? Well, it doesn't light up Super VHS ET, but it does light up Super VHS here. So on the front here, and now it's playing the Super VHS tape that I've got in there now. But it does light up, the S-VHS icon lights up. When you put a regular tape in and you put it in ET mode, it actually lights up Super S-VHS ET, which stands for, I think it was Enhanced Technology or whatever the ET meant. But it was just a way of recording S-VHS onto a regular tape. So when you put a real Super VHS tape in this machine, it goes into full Super VHS mode because it still does detect the switch. So it's and it looks good. I mean, the picture here, this is an EP tape that I've got playing, and as you can see, the picture quality off it is excellent. So let's do a recording. Let me grab a tape to record on, and I'll record some stuff, boring stuff like color bars and so forth, right? Now, by comparison, I recorded Band of Brothers on a regular VHS tape. My other decks that I had, oh, this is a cheap tape too. This is a really cheap, like, look how thin this plastic is. Already cracked. Look at the tape. This is junk. This is one of my duplicators. I used to buy these things for $1 a piece. Yes, I know I was cheap, but it's actually Maxell tape that's in here. But I used to buy these tape dirt cheap when I was doing production work. We used to buy them for, I think, a T120 was like $1.15 maybe. And the shorter tapes were even cheaper because we were giving them away, giving them out to clients in bulk. They weren't nice, big, heavy like this tape here, a real tape. This is solid. This plastic on here is solid. That one there, you can break it with your thumb without putting any effort into it. Anyway, when I put a regular tape in, this was recorded in Super VHS because my other machines that I had modified them so that I had a little switch that I could bypass the switch inside the machine so that I could record in Super VHS on a regular tape. Of course, I didn't do that for clients. These were just used as regular VHS tapes for clients. But when I was recording stuff off TV, I used to do it for myself because the tapes are cheap. But let's see if this machine thinks it's a real VHS or whether it's an ET tape. It knows it's an ET tape. It knows it's Super VHS because it can see the frequency that's coming off the heads, but because there's no tab, the S-VHS ET light lights up. Okay, now let me load a regular tape in this thing, and we'll make some test recordings and see how it records. You know, the only thing I didn't get I didn't get a remote control, which is unfortunate. So I probably have a remote that'll control it, but it would have been nice to have gotten a remote control with it. Oh, it's got an SP/EP speed here, which is good. I was concerned that I might not be able to change the tape speed because some of these machines, Panasonic, were really bad for this. Without the remote control, you can't put the machine in SP mode. It's stuck in EP. But this one has a button on the front, so that's not an issue. We'll just load up a tape here, and we'll do some recordings. Now, on most of these JVCs, this dial here, I know you think there's a jog shuttle, but there's not. It's actually this little dial here. When you press or when you turn it, it goes into rewind or fast forward. This is for your shuttle control. When you're in stop mode, if you press this in, this dial now becomes your channel selector. So let's see if I can dial in the line input. There we go. Where's line 1? There's line 1 there. There's our color bars coming in from the camera over here. Let's see how accurate this thing records color, and I'll do it in both. I'll do it in both SP, EP, and regular VHS and Super VHS ET, so we can compare the difference. So I'm just going to rewind this tape back to the beginning, and we'll go from there. It's nice. I'm pretty lucky to have scored this for 15 bucks, because even though it needed some work, it wasn't a lot of work to fix this thing. I have no idea what's on this tape. This tape actually was in the machine when I got it, so it's now a tape I can erase. So to record, I'm just going to hit the record button here. I'm recording in SP, and we'll record for, I don't know, it's got active video calibration too, which is good, which is nice. A lot of these, I can shut this noisy thing off. I don't need that running anymore to try and talk over. The nice thing about a lot of the late model, I know a lot of people talk about how they didn't like the late model VCRs, that everyone likes the old vintage ones. I will say something for the late model VCRs. The last generation of VCRs, especially some of the ones made by some of the top tier companies like JVC and Toshiba. Toshiba had some pretty good active digital noise cancelling on a lot of their machines, but Anyway, some of the late model machines, the technology had improved to the point where they were able to get improve the picture quality and get the noise a lot better than on some of the early ones. And this active video calibration is a prime example. So I'll just record it here for a bit in SP. I'll stop it, and I'm going to switch it down to EP, and I'll start recording again. And then I'll record here for, there, see, it's going to do the active video calibration again. And what it does, if you look at the tape here, it actually records a bit, and then the tape rewinds a little bit. So when I switch it to the S-VHS mode, I'll get you a close-up here. When you first start recording, it'll record a bit, and then the tape rolls back, and it plays it back. And what it's doing, it's like doing the automatic bias setup on a cassette deck, where it records a sweep of frequency, and then it plays it back, and it looks for the sweet spot, and it sets the bias up accordingly. And that circuit works very similar on these machines that have that active video equalization. They make a recording on the tape, and then they play that recording back, and they look to see what the characteristics of the tape are, and from that it can actually adjust the recording amplifiers to optimize the recording quality. So I'll just record EP, record here for a bit, and then I'm going to switch it into SP and put it into S-VHS ET mode. Okay, now we're going to put this thing into SP mode and turn on the S-VHS ET. So now it's in S-VHS mode. I'm going to zoom the camera in so you guys can watch what happens when I press record. So I'm going to press record now. It records forward. Okay, it's going to go into active calibration. It's going to back up, play the recording back, and then it kicks into record. Now it's just kicked into record. So it records a bit. Only has to record, a few frames. It doesn't need to record much. Just so that it can check the frequency response. Measures what the tape is capable of. Adjusts its record equalizer accordingly, and then goes into record. So now I'm recording color bars in the SP speed. And now stop it, and we'll do the same for the EP. So I'll stop it, press the SP EP speed button, and then hit record again. And again it'll record a bit, and then back up. So now it's going to back up. Plays it back, and then goes into record. Actually, I think it plays it back while it's backing up, is what it does. It makes a short recording, and then it goes into playback, and it plays it back as the tape is reversing, and that's where it calibrates. And then it goes into record mode. It only does it when you first change speed and when you first load a tape. So if I stop it and start it back up, it doesn't go through that process again. It only goes through that process when you change speeds or you change modes and when you put a new tape in. So now it's recording in the EP speed. Let's play this back and take a look at how the color quality is on this tape on this machine and see how well it records. So I'll stop it, and I'll just hit the rewind by turning the dial, and of course there's the recording. So there's the recording, and that'll do video calibration, where now it's adjusting the playback equalizers. But there's standard VHS in the SP speed. Next shot will be in the EP speed, and I apologize because I'm just shooting off the screen. So if I have the camera in too close, you're going to get the you're going to actually see the pixels on the screen. This is a plasma. Now you do see the dot crawl because this is a composite source. I didn't record it through S-Video. If I were to record this through S-Video and play it back through S-Video, you wouldn't see those. You won't see the dot crawl. And maybe we'll do that too. So let's wait for the, there's the, this is the SP speed now. So now it's kicked up to SP. No, sorry, that was SP. Now it's kicked down to EP. So there's the EP speed. Still looks fine. I mean, it's not quite as clear at the transition points here. You can see there's a little more noise because it is the EP speed. Next up will be Super VHS. Okay, now it's kicked into S-VHS mode in the SP speed. If you look at the edges of the color here, it's better, considerably better. Now obviously this is still only color bar, so we're not talking a lot of bandwidth here. If I put in a high resolution test chart, which we can do, then we'll take a look at how that looks, and I'll do that. And there's the EP speed in S-VHS. And again, you'll notice that the picture quality is considerably better than it was on the standard VHS. Color isn't much better, but certainly the luminance is clear. So this is a resolution test chart. This is what was used by broadcast stations prior to going to high definition to allow the engineers to adjust the transmitters and to also allow TV repairmen to adjust the picture on televisions. And typically this was generated by a special type of camera called a monoscope test pattern generator. This test pattern was basically produced two different ways depending on the type of setup that was being used. A monoscope camera was basically a CRT that had a metal grid etched, engraved in this test pattern internal. And as the electron beam scanned across this target, it wasn't actually a real pickup tube, it was a metal target that was inside this, that was built into the tube. This was etched onto the tube itself. As the electron beam scanned it, it would influence a voltage change on basically on this target itself. And all the camera did was, it wasn't actually a real television camera. You couldn't put a lens or anything on it. It just generated a video signal of the monoscope. But it had all the workings of a camera, but in place of the camera tube, it had a monoscope tube. And the monoscope tube basically just gave you that image, and it was actually engraved into the surface of the tube itself. Another type of monoscope generator, which is one that was actually at the first shop that I worked at when I was still in high school. The owner had a monoscope generator, a flying spot generator, and basically what it was a black and white picture tube that just displayed a solid white raster, right? It was a television receiver, well, not a receiver, it was just a television sync generator that generated horizontal and vertical sync, and it generated a solid white raster on a screen. And he had a transparent slide that had this drawn on it, and he would put that slide in front of this, basically it was like a scope tube, right? But I believe it was white. It wasn't green, it was white. But it was just a regular, like a little, I think it was like a little 6-inch or 5-inch. It was a round tube, but it displayed a white, I'm pretty sure it was a white raster. It could have been green, but I'm pretty sure it was white. And it just displayed a white raster, and he put a transparency card with this on it, and the light would shine through this transparency card, and there was a photomultiplier tube. It was what's called a flying spot scanner, and you kept the lid closed on this thing because if any light got into it, of course, it would affect the output. The photomultiplier tube generated the video signal that was then sent to an RF modulator that was hooked up to TVs that you were testing in the shop. That was for adjusting the linearity and the vertical, the size and the linearity and the horizontal linearity, etc. And you could actually take this card out. You could take out this transparency, and you could put whatever you wanted. You could put you could put a picture on there. It was only obviously black and white, but you could put like a slide, like a color slide on there, and you see a black and white image. But obviously it would be a lot smaller because the little card itself was, I think it was like about 4 inches. Anyway, that was the first one that I saw in a TV shop, and everybody just had the standard. It was made by RCA, and it was the RCA monoscope pattern, which is what this is. Another option, when I was working in broadcast there for a few years, we had one that was the same pattern as this, and you put it on front of the TK27 telecine camera, and then you turn your slide projector on and just have a blank white, no slide, like nothing at all. It would just display a white image on this chart, and that was used for registering. It was a registration chart. This is what we used to register. We had two of them, but we used typically this one here to register the 3 tubes in the camera, because you could turn off the blue or turn off the red and register the colors using the crosshatch So we use this as a registration chart, and which is another little card that you just stuck in front of the lens, and the light from the slide projector would shine through it. Anyway, what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to set up my Sony tube camera, because this is an all analog. There's no point in shooting this on a digital camera and recording it. I'm going to set up my Sony analog camera, and we're going to send this signal off to this VHS and see how well it records. These are the lines of resolution. So when it plays back, you've got horizontal lines. This is the vertical resolution, is these ones, and this is the horizontal resolution here. And these markings on here tells you like 200 lines, 300 lines, 350 lines, 450. Right? These are your actual lines of resolution. And anyway, we're going to record this and take a look at the difference between standard VHS and Super VHS. So I'm just going to set up my other camera, frame it up on here, and then we can make some recordings. So I'm going to shoot this chart with this Sony professional Trinicon camera. This is a single tube camera, but you know what? It'll do good. It'll do just fine for this. Got the chart mounted over on the wall. There's a shot right off the chart on the HD camera, and I've got the camera framed up so that that is now displaying on the monitor, and we'll make a recording of this. So this was another way that this chart was used in TV stations for camera registration. For a 3-tube camera, the engineer could turn off individual colors, like turn off the, they always use a green as a reference, but they could turn off the red and then register the green to the blue, or the blue to the green, and then turn off the blue and register the red to the green. Typically a registration chart had many more horizontal and vertical lines than this one, but this one was good for testing resolution and testing linearity. So TV stations, they all had charts like this. They also had chip charts. This was actually printed on photographic paper. These charts that were in the TV stations were printed on large photographic paper that were kept in the dark. They were on a cardboard, like a sandwich board, and you closed it up and you flip it open, and one side had this and the other side had either the registration chart or the chip chart. Anyway, enough about test signals. Let's see how this machine performs. We'll do the same test that it did before with the color bars, but we'll do it this time recording in both speeds using this chart. So first I'll make the recording in SP, standard VHS, and then I'll do it in EP, standard VHS, SP and Super VHS, and EP and Super VHS. I wonder how long it would take to burn this chart into this camera if I left it focused on there for any length of time. I probably should throw some more light on it too. I don't think I've got enough light to get this camera working to its optimum performance. So here's playback. And we'll just zoom the camera in here so you guys can see. So here's the VHS playback. Now if I stop it so you can see what's coming off the camera. If we look at the chart here, I go back to playback. It might be an advantage for me to try this using my old professional camera, and then I can take it in with S-video straight into here instead of composite. We can try that too. We'll see what the difference is. But there, that's live feed off the camera still. Back to playback. There's standard VHS, Super VHS now. It wasn't quite as subtle as I thought it would be when it switched over either. That's very close to the original. I guess the lines we're looking at, we're going to be looking at these ones down here, not these ones. These ones, the ones that go horizontal, those are vertical resolution. These ones, now we're back in. This is still S-VHS, but this is now the EP speed. So what we're looking at is we're looking at this resolution down here, down near the bottom of it there. That's S-VHS in EP, And when it switches to standard VHS, we will probably see this resolution down here at the bottom will drop. The wedges will appear more blurred as we get it beyond, 300 lines. And as you can see, it is definitely rolling off a lot sooner. I'm going to go get my other camera, my much higher resolution. It's an HD camera, but I can take the S-Video out and we'll plug that in, and we'll do the same test off of my 3-chip professional camera. Okay, on this camera you can see that I can clearly get well up. Well, the display here is showing almost 500 lines. Okay, this is the HD camera, but we're limited by NTSC's resolution, but we're going well beyond 400 lines of resolution here, which is, where am I pointing? Somewhere around there. Okay, that's what we're looking at. I'm still not going through S-Video in because unfortunately this VCR, unless I have the remote, I can't select S-Video in. But we'll do the same thing. We'll turn the Super VHS off and we'll put it into SP mode, and we'll do the same recording again. Record the same thing, this time just using my professional camera, and I apologize, I know that the chart is not square. This tripod is a cheap tripod that doesn't have leveling abilities. My other tripod has got a adjustable head so I can level it off. This one doesn't, and I don't feel like playing with the legs to square it up. So this recording is off the Sony. This is a 3-chip HDV camera, just feeding the composite video out into this machine. That's SP. Let's do it in Super VHS. So Super VHS is on. We'll make another recording, and then we'll do it in the EP speed and check the difference in quality. So there's SP in Super VHS on a standard VHS tape. So this is being recorded in S-VHS ET mode. Okay, we're going to switch it down to the LP speed now. So this is LP, or EP, sorry. These machines don't have LP. And this is still in Super VHS mode, and that will turn the Super VHS off. So we should see a dramatic drop in the resolution, which is right in this area here, between the S-VHS and the standard. But you can see how much better this camera here is, this being a 1080 camera, than the other camera, which is just a single tube camera, which was struggling to hit 300 lines of resolution. Okay, that should be enough recording there. And I'll just plug it, I'm just going to plug the source back into the other camera just so you can see the actual difference. So there's the Sony professional HD camera, and here's the Sony professional single tube camera. Quite the noticeable drop in detail. You'll see the Sony is falling off at between 250 and 300 lines of resolution. If we look down here at the bottom, and if I go back over to the other camera here, considerably better. I think I'm framed up pretty much the same size here. Cameraman's supposed to frame right to the edge here, right of the chart. Once you're framed to that box around the edge, they're in the right size. This one here's a little bit low. Maybe not. Just my camera moved over a bit. There. We go back to SP off of this tube camera. In standard VHS mode. Now I'm in SP Super VHS. now I'm in EP Super VHS, and we'll do one final in the EP Standard VHS, and that'll be it for the test of this machine. And that'll be it for this video too, because it's gone on far too long. If you guys are still watching me now, you're brave, because I'm sure I've put most of you to sleep at this point. But hey, for you diehards that want to see this old gear, we'll check it out for you. Okay, and I'll just one more time here. S-VHS ET is off. This is the last recording. Okay, that should do it. Let's play this back. See how it looks. So here's playback. Okay, so here's playback in standard VHS mode. This is from the professional camera, and as you can see, the horizontal resolution is going to about 240 lines, which is that's what standard VHS is capable of. So the original off the tape or off the camera was a little sharper than that. This is back to looking at the picture off of the Sony tube camera, but as you can see, even off of that, it's a little sharper. It's going to almost 300 lines of resolution here. We're falling off about 240, which is where VHS's limitation is. You see nothing up here in the 350 and above. In fact, it doesn't even make it to 300. So when it kicks into Super VHS mode, we should see a noticeable improvement in the resolution rate in that area. So there we go. Now we're going to Super VHS. And as you can see, you can actually see resolution up here, which is getting just to the 400 line. Here's the 400 line mark here, so we're not quite making it to 400 lines, but we're making it beyond 350. We're making it close to 400 lines of resolution. You remember that Super VHS, their claim was only 400 lines. Now the next recording, this is in the EP speed. Again, our resolution is very good. If we zoom this camera in here, you can see that we are going beyond 350 lines of resolution. And then when in the next recording, it's going to kick down to the EP speed, and as you can see, it's dismal. There's no detail up here whatsoever. In fact, it's making it barely past 200 lines of resolution, if it's even making it to 200. Because 200 is right here. Right, there's the mark for 200. So we're not even making it past 200 lines of resolution. If I rewind the tape a bit again here, we'll go back to the Super VHS recordings. Okay, I believe this is the, is this the standard? No, this is the Super. Let's get back to the standard and SP. So here's the SP recording again. If I zoom in here on the screen, as you can see, there's 200 lines of resolution right there, and we're not making it much beyond that, and that's the one that we're looking at in the center. The other resolution markings on the side do the same. These other ones up here show the same thing. And here we are. This is in Super VHS. As you can see, we're getting to 300 lines, and at the top here we're getting up to 350. It's just starting to fuzz out here at 350. Now, whether a real Super VHS tape will improve on that or not, it's hard to tell. Maybe slightly. There's only one way to find out, but I'm not going to find out today. And there's the EP speed again. It's looking good. EP speed, a little more noise, but then when we go down to the EP speed, or sorry, EP speed at standard VHS, as you can see, there's nothing there. It looks horrible. So there's proof in the pudding right there that S-VHS does record a better picture than standard VHS, even with one of these S-VHS ET machines. What will be interesting, and we'll do the same test when I get the Panasonic, when I get that DS850, when I get it recapped we'll do a test on that and see how well that one records. See how high it will go in terms of resolution. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to go and enjoy my S-VHS machine now. We'll catch you later.